Good evening, ladies.
Well, Harav, how are you?
Okay, sorry to make you wait. Here we go. Facebook. Okay. So it looks like we're up to Yud Tet and Chaf, which is 19 and 20. So it says Bet Yosef over here. Katuv Mordechai. It says in the Mordechai, Peg Kama de Megillah, first Peg of Megillah. Shebe'ir Würzburg. Man'u Lager Liot Shaliach Tzibur. Right. This is what we talked about. Right. That in this town, which is in Europe, obviously, they prevented converts from being shliach tzibur. They didn't allow them. Why is that? Because you cannot really say Elohai Avotenu, the God of our fathers. Since his fathers were not Jewish. As it says in the Mishnah, Per Kama the Bechorim, over there in Bechorot, it says Mishnah Daled, Ger Keshu Mitpalel Beno Leben Atzmo. A convert who's praying by himself, Omer Elohe Avot Israel. You should say like that, the God of the fathers of Israel. So in other words, instead of saying Avotai, my fathers, Kishehu Bebet Knesset, when he's in the shul, he says Omer Elohe Avotechem. He says the God of your fathers, Rabbeinu Yoel, but Rabbeinu Yoel on the other side, he was allowing converts to be shliach tzibur. The Garcina and because what says in the Yerushalmi, Begemara, the Hach Matnitin, that Mishnah there, Perek Aleph, Halacha Daled, Tane B'Shem Rabbi Yehuda. It says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the Braita, Ger Atzmo Mevi V'Koreh, right? So regarding the first fruits, right? Says the Rabbi Yehuda, that a convert can also bring the first fruits and read this declaration that he has to read. Matam, what's the reason why? Even though his forefathers were not Jewish, right? So technically he's lying when he says this, right? As if, right? So then why is it allowed for him to say that? Matam, what's the reason? Because it says about Abraham Avinu that I made you the father of many nations. So what does that mean? That he was a forefather of many nations, not only the Jewish people. So Hashem told to Abraham, from now on, you are the father of all the nations. So Abraham became the father of all the nations. He became like the leader of the whole world, basically, right? That's what it was. Mikan ve'elach ata av lechol hagoyim. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, this rabbi says, Amar halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Ata uvda komeh. So he said the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, but there was actually a real case that came. The Rabbi Abu in front of Rabbi Abu. Ve'orak ki Rabbi Yehuda. He passed like Rabbi Yehuda. Ve'chevan she'emoraim poskim ki Rabbi Yehuda. So he says since the Emoraim he passed like Rabbi Yehuda, udlo kematnitin, and not like the other source that we mentioned. What was that source? It was a Braita or a Mishnah? 1 second. Right, it's a Braita. So it's not like the Braita. It's like Rabbi Yehuda. So that's where we paskin. The whole ze ketabo gam ken hagot maimoniyot. He also wrote this rabbi perket minchot tefillah over there. Behu midivra Tosfot comes from Tosfot perk asfina. Shkatu shenechlaku. They wrote that there was also machloket between Rabbeinu Tam and Ri, right, regarding this issue. But that Ri leatir. So Ri paskin to allow converts to be shliach tzibur. Upasakaran. So the Ran paskins the perk asfina over there. Kediver Ri paskins like the Ri. Bekatav shelazei iskimu Ramban. He said also the Ramban paskin that way, and the Rashba, right? Also the Rambam seems to paskin that way. He says Minchot Bikurim also over there. So you see, right, that most of the Rishonim seem to say that it's allowed for a convert to be Chazan. Okay. He's also, by the way, allowed to be the rabbi if he wants to. If he learns enough Torah, why not, right? So okay. So he says like this: Katav Hagur says in the Agur. Whoever wants to be shliach tzibur, שלא מתוך אגודה אחד, but he's not within a certain, we'll see what this means exactly. אין רוח חכמים נוחה ממנו, ויחיד מוחה בחזנות, right? Okay, yeah. So you know what he's saying over here? The problem is like this, that when a person goes out to be shliach tzibur, let's say some of the community doesn't like him, for some reason or other, whatever. Obviously not because, they don't like his, the way his shoulders are shaped. I'm not talking about that, right? They have some kind of real gripe with the guy, right? So if that's the case, they have a gripe with him. So they're allowed to object, In other words, you can't. So in other words, the shliach tzibur should be desirable to everybody. Nobody should object. That's what he's trying to say. So he says the rabbis don't like this. When a person goes up with force, and he forces himself on the community, even though some people don't like him there, he shouldn't do that. That's what we're saying. So it says even one person can object. Can you imagine? According to this opinion, even one person doesn't like the guy, he can say, no, I'm sorry, I object, I don't want, Rabbeinu Moshe ben Chazdai, Mesefer Or, this rabbi says he argues with that. Or Zarua, Ad Kan Hashanah. So we see, right, that there's a machloket about that. This, by the way, has nothing to do with the convert. This is a different concept altogether. Right? What's the story? The story is that a chazan should be desirable to everybody, according to the first opinion. According to the second opinion, it doesn't have to be everybody. You can't please everybody. Whatever. Okay, let's see how that goes. So it says later on afterwards, Umari Kolon Katav, says Mari Kolon Katav B'Shorosh Mendalet, שהתפילה היא של הקהל, שהיא במקום התלמידים. Look what he says, right? That the prayers that we do today, it belongs to the community, right? It's a communal thing when we pray in the shul. So it comes to the place of the sacrifices, the communal sacrifices. So he says, Shayu Ba'im Mishel Tzibur, because they used to come from the community, these things. So he says, therefore, right, since it's a communal thing, and you're praying for the community when you do that. So therefore, right, it's not proper for you to go up and, when people don't like you and force yourself on them. It's not proper to do that. So he says, because of this, Paskins Rabbeinu Simcha, that even one person, right, can object. And he says, sorry, I don't like this guy. He's not a good chazan. he's got some problems, this guy. I don't know. I don't like him. Right? Okay. Any chapet שיהיה פלוני חזן, אם לא שכבר הסכים עליו מתחילה, says, unless he already agreed at the beginning, and then all of a sudden later on he objected, that's already not it's not valid. If he already agreed to it, then he changed his mind all of a sudden. We don't listen to that. Hilkach, he says, therefore, אם אחד רוצה לומר תפילה בשביל אביו, so now this is the problem, right? This is the issue that comes up all the time, which is that you always have, the guy with we call that today the chiyuv. What does it mean, chiyuv? It means that he wants to pray, to elevate the soul of his father, right? To be the chazan for that purpose, which is it's a noble thing, by the way, right? But the problem is, right, some people don't like this guy, they say, listen, with all due respect to your father, but, we're here praying for the living, we don't like you so much. Okay. Right, so, Hilkach, אם אחד רוצה לומר בתפילה בשביל אביו, ואחד רוצה לומר בשביל אחר, מי שירצו הקהל שאמר התפילה, הוא יזכה בו ולא האחר, right? So he says that, let's say one person wants to pray for his father, to elevate his father's neshama, right? And one wants to pray for somebody else. So then who do we pick? So he says, right, that whoever the community likes him more, that's the one that should go up. Okay, good. So let's see what the Shulchan Aruch says on this. A lot of interesting things here. Okay, so we're doing 19. So it says, Yesh mon'in ger midiot shliach tzibur. It says there are some who say that a convert should not be shliach tzibur, but their opinion was pushed out. So therefore, we don't pass him like that, right? That's what it says. Then we have a different story, right? Which is that even one person can say regarding a certain chazan, and he will say, "Sheploni yeh chazan." I don't want this guy. He's allowed to object. Unless he already agreed to him in the beginning. Interesting. So says the Rama, so he says, but there has to be like a good reason why you don't like this guy. You can't just pick and choose, whatever you have to have some kind of a good reason. But it says never. But if not so, so then nobody can come up and object against the shliach tzibur. Let's say he doesn't like him, he just hates the guy, They're enemies, whatever, right? They blocked each other on Facebook, they already blocked. So they don't like each other. Right? So then he can, it says, so he's allowed to, if he hates him, he can object, but that's only if he didn't agree in the first place. But if he already agreed, too late. Now you got into a fight. You blocked him on Facebook. Now you want to take him out? No, too late now. You already accepted him in the beginning. That's what he says. So then he goes on to say, the Rama, so that's interesting, right? He says that If you hate the shliach tzibur, you don't like the guy. You got a personal gripe with him, right? Some kind of personal issue there going on. So he says, Lo ya'aleh sefer Torah kishekorea atochacha. So you shouldn't go up to the Sefer Torah when they're reading the curses, right, which is in the end of Leviticus. There's curses there. And there's also another one in the end of Deuteronomy, of Devarim. So there's two curses, right, that are said in the Torah. And so what happens is like this, right, that if you don't like this guy, he doesn't like you. So what happens is like this, right? If he's reading the Torah and you go up to, read with him, to get the aliyah. So the problem is when he reads those curses, he may be, concentrating on you. He may be intending it on you. That's why you shouldn't go up, during that time, because if this guy doesn't like you, he's going to curse you out there. That's the thing, So you got to be careful about that. Okay. There is a general question, by the way, about this, right? About cursing your fellow Jew. Are you allowed to curse your fellow Jew? He did something to you, right? Let's say, he offended you. So, give him a nice curse, blessing, bless him good. Euphemism, right? Well, are you allowed to do that? So the truth is, in Choshen Mishpat, in the Shulchan Aruch, it says that you're not allowed to curse your fellow Jew. So even if he harmed you or whatever, you really shouldn't curse him, unless the person is like a real rasha, and he's a bad person. He's a real sinner, Like today, we have some people in the Israeli government like that, some Rashaim over there. So we curse them all the time, because we can't stand them. We want them. They're very, they're terrible people, some of these people. Not all of them. Some of them are really, really bad, So we curse them all the time, Baruch Hashem. We curse them. We have no problem with that. Why is that? Because they're sinners, these people, and not only they're sinners to themselves, but they're also cause the community to sin, which is even worse. So we're not talking about that, right? So the wicked, we curse them, Every time we mention the name of the wicked, we curse them if they're really wicked people, We're not talking about just regular, Jews who drive on Shabbat, whatever. Because today, that's not considered to be somebody, who's such a big sinner because they don't know any better. That's the whole thing. They don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? But we're talking about people who are especially big sinners, We have some people like that. So people like that, you're allowed to curse them. It's even a mitzvah to curse them. Because we want to weaken them. We want to harm them, that they shouldn't do harm to us, They're coming to harm us. But just a regular Jew, though, somebody who is not such a bad person, just happens to be that, he did something to you, which, you offended you, whatever. You shouldn't curse him, You should avoid that. That's the way it is.
Rabbi, let me understand this. So cursing, not cursing,
yeah,
a person is only exclusive to a fellow Jew. I mean, I would think you're not allowed to curse any human being just arbitrarily, especially if you know that they're not really some kind of a terrible person.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the Jewish people, we are all responsible for one another. So therefore, we have a sort of we give each other preferential treatment.
Okay, that's understandable. I mean? Every religious sect does that amongst themselves.
That's why Hashem. And there's a reason for that, by the way. The reason is because the Torah teaches us something very, very important, that the Jewish people are not like any other people. They are all the children of God. What does that mean? that every soul, every Jewish soul, is written in the Torah. There's one letter in the Torah that talks about that soul. So what does that mean? That there are three things, that are bound up together in this world, which is Hashem, the Torah, and the Jewish people. It's like one unit. We're all like on the same page. So therefore, somebody who's bound up with you like that, he's like your brother. He's like your soul brother. How can you curse somebody like that? He's a part of you. It's like you're cursing yourself.
No, that's understandable. My question is that. My question is that from what I learned from you, and from the Torah, is that you have to give even a Gentile the utmost respect. You have to respect them.
Yeah, of course, but we respect them. Why do we respect them? Because of peaceful relations. That we should have peaceful relations with them.
Okay, but my question is
not because we consider them to be, the God's angels. We don't go that far, if you know what I mean. It's just we want peaceful relations. We don't want to get into wars, and all kinds of disputes and things like that.
Yeah, but my question isn't really answered. Is a Jew allowed to curse someone else outside the Jewish world, the Jewish community?
So as we said, right, that the prohibition of cursing your fellow Jew, it only applies to Jews, like many other prohibitions. I see. It only applies to Jews. But obviously, why would you want to curse some goy? If he's a nice person, why would you want to curse him? Doesn't make any sense, right? Like, what are you gaining from that? If he's a nice guy, why would you want to curse the guy?
That's my point.
It's just a matter of logic, but there's no prohibition like there is with a Jew.
Yeah.
It's a different level.
It seems to me, and I had another comment I wanted to throw in here, that the reason that we don't curse another Jew is because of the prohibition, but the reason that we don't curse a goy is because of peaceful relations. We don't want them to become anti-Semitic and hurt us.
Absolutely.
I vaguely recall that there is another thing about when you curse a person, you're inviting the Hasatan to evaluate your life as well and judge you.
Right. That's a very big thing. It's a very big concept, what you're talking about. So the truth is, that this goes into it gets fragmented, this halakha, into different categories. So I'll explain to you, a little bit like what that means. That when you curse somebody for a personal gripe that you have against him, in other words, there's some personal issue there. He harmed you, and you want to take revenge. I don't know, God knows, whatever, right? Like it's a personal thing. So in cases like that, if you're cursing him, so the Chazal say what's going to be is you'll be punished first. Because they're going to check up on you, to see if you're such a holy guy, and if you're not, they'll take you first. Why? Because you brought up the judgment, Since you brought it up, now you're inciting this whole thing. That's one category, right? That's one fragmentation of this halakha. There's also another fragmentation, another category, which is that you're not cursing him because of a personal gripe. You're cursing him because he's harming the Jewish people. You understand? He's a sinner. He causes other people to sin. So a person like that, it's not a personal issue. So if you curse him, Hashem, they're not going to punish you first because it's your job to curse him. That's your job. You know what I mean? So we're not talking about that. You know what I mean? So a person who's like a general sinner, somebody who causes people to sin, let's say like, a reformed rabbi, right? Or somebody like that, right? So you should curse him because he's not, he's causing people to sin.
Is there a halacha or like how to curse somebody? Is there something
you know what the Jews say, right? That's what we say.
That's it?
That's what we say.
Awesome.
The thing about this is, if someone deaf was to listen to this, they would think that, since we're condoning the cursing of someone, they should turn it into a ritual or something, and do it day and night. Maybe perhaps light candles and start,
Yeah.
doing voodoo against these people.
Yeah, there is a ceremony, by the way. There is a ceremony that that people curse somebody. It's called Pulsa Denura. It's from Kabbalah. They usually do this curse on like very big sinners, like Hitler, Imach Shemo. They did a Pulsa Denura on him, because they want him to die.
So what is
You understand?
what is the purpose of a curse though? Is it to bring someone to tshuva, or is it to like bring judgment?
Well, you know what it is? First of all, the reason why we curse the sinner, right, who's a very big sinner, is because we don't want him to succeed. That's one thing. We want him to fail, to fall on his face, that's what we want. Because if he succeeds, he's going to cause more harm. You understand? That's the problem. So that's what we want. We want to weaken him, we want to, weaken his power. That's what it is. And that's why we curse him. So that has nothing to do with a personal gripe you have with somebody, right? As we said, that's a different issue. It's a personal gripe, you got to settle it, try to settle it, whatever, But if
I guess this ceremony wasn't done against Washington yet.
Washington. Which Washington are you talking about?
DC, where there's about 535 of those.
Well, I don't think we should curse the government. There's actually a lot of good people there who are very helpful to Jewish people. Whatever. But there are good people there. Some good people. As I said, like if the goy is a good person, there's really no reason to curse him. You shouldn't do that. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Like why would you want to curse somebody who's a good person?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
It's a matter of logic, just why would you want to do that? If he's
Absolutely.
a good person, why would you? It doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
You should curse the wicked, not the good people. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Of course, that's obvious, right?
Rabbi, the other problem I have is, and I've always had this problem, and I understand you being, somewhat evasive to it, but when we talk about the Torah and the Jewish people, we have a tendency to leave out the rest of the world as though God doesn't love the rest of the world and doesn't care about them.
He doesn't love them because they rejected his Torah. It's very simple. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
If you're a parent, right, and you made rules in the house, like don't steal your brother's socks, and there's one wise guy, always steals in the house, so you're gonna love him so much? You're not gonna love him so much because he's a thief.
Okay, so maybe God does have a preference, but what I'm saying, remember we used to attend Rabbi Lazari's lectures, and one of the girls there, I don't expect you to have a photographic memory like mine. I tend to remember all the nonsense and the little, odd nuances, but I don't expect everybody to remember that. And a girl raised her hand there, and she asked the same question, like, we make it sound like God doesn't really care about the rest of the world. And I remember Rabbi Lazari answering, that's not true, that miracles have been happening to the Gentiles, and God has been bestowing, good things on them.
I think you're making too much out of that statement because it's really not really, you're not saying in the right context, and not really saying in the right context. The truth is, that the Ramchal, the Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, he writes in his books that there's a difference between the way God runs the world of the Goyim and the God runs the Jewish world. So what does that mean? Hashem doesn't get into the intricacies of the Goyim like something called hashkafa pratit, like divine providence, like everything is being supervised. By the goyim, they're under the mazal, they're under the fortune. So the fortune takes care of it. So it's like an indirect way of taking care of them, But when it comes to the Jews, we're above the mazal, So Hashem gives us like very divine providence, very precise providence. He gives every Jew a very precise attention. So it's really not the same thing at all. It's a different system altogether.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying this. But is Rabbi Luzzatto the only one that explains this?
Well, he's a little bit smarter than Rabbi Lasby, believe it or not. So it's he was a very big man,
So this explanation or this provision doesn't come from Rambam or one of these people. It came from Luzzatto.
It comes from the Kabbalah. It's from the Kabbalah.
I see. And Luzzatto,
also, by the way, Talmud, and also in the Talmud, by the way, same thing.
Same thing. So it took. Yeah. So Luzzatto elaborates on it.
Of course, yeah. He's not making up his own Torah. Nobody does that. Only the non-Jews do that. We don't do that.
It's interesting that you mentioned Luzzatto because I've never heard you mention him in your.
I have to just, you probably missed it because I call him sometimes the Ramchal.
Ramchal,
yeah.
He's also one of the sages, though, right?
I'm sorry?
He's one of the sages, one of the Torah scholars of his
generation. He lived about 250 years ago.
1700s, right?
I'm sorry?
Like the 1700s?
About in the 1800s, he was alive.
1700s.
Okay, whatever.
1746 he died.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
All right, I'm sorry,
I'm not one of the Gadol, right?
I'm sorry?
He's considered one of the greats, though, right?
He's considered to be one of the great Mekubalim, the great Kabbalists. Yes.
He wrote The Path of the Just, wasn't it?
Yes, that book also, yeah. Amongst many other books, by the way. That's not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, his book, which I have and I read many, many years ago, The Way of God, is so vague that there were books written on that to actually elaborate.
Of course, that's the way it is, But it's really a great book, though. I must tell you.
They came up with a new one. I think a new edition with elucidation on it. I don't know.
Okay, very good. Baruch Hashem. There's no end to it. There's no end to how many editions will come out.
I find it to be a little too generalized and vague. That book.
Well, yeah, it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be Shulchan Aruch, Bet Yosef. That's not what it's meant to be.
I understand.
General outline. You understand?
All right, very good.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm not as prolific as your lady students.
Yeah, well, they're smarter than all of us. What can I tell you? They got us beat. All right, so let's go on a little bit. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. So let's go. There's another Shulchan Aruch here. It says, I'm sorry. So you were saying something?
Yes, I do have a question in last one. That even the Noahides also are above they're under the Mazal?
A Noahide is a goy. It's the same thing, Just they made a different name now. It's all the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there's only one type of goy.
Right, but there's the one that, for the little understanding I have, is that one that is not, it only believes in Hashem and does not believe in any.
Yeah. There's a righteous goy and there's a wicked goy. Like everybody else. It's the same thing.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. So let's go on. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch, let's say one person wants to go and pray for his father, right, to be the Chazan. And one wants to pray for somebody else, right? Let's say his uncle, right? Whatever, I don't know, God knows. He wants to pray for his uncle's soul. So he says, whoever the community wants to say the tefillah, who yomar, he should say. So in other words, how do we decide? The community, whoever they like better. That's the one that goes up. So why is that, by the way? What's the reason why? Because the truth is, that when you go up to pray for your father or pray for your uncle, whatever it may be, right? That's not really the main purpose of, being a chazan, right? That's just a side thing, That's your purpose, but for the community, the purpose is not that. Their purpose is that they should have somebody that they like. So that overrides, your personal whims, all kinds of things that you have in your head. That's what it is. Okay, good. That's the idea. Let's go on. So now we're going to go to another Bet Yosef, Kaf Aleph, 21. It says over here like this. Katava Mordechai. Says the Mordechai, the Perek Achovel. In this Perek, Baba Kama, She'eshiv Rabbeinu Meir ala Chazan. Oh, so Rabbeinu Meir, right? So he told this Chazan, right? Shayu Rovat Tzibur Chapetzim Bo. So what happened was that most of the community likes this guy, right? They like this Chazan. They think he's really good. But some of them don't like him, You always have that minority, 10%, 20% don't like you. That's right. So some of them don't like him. Oh, right. So he says, you know what? So what happened was that then why was this guy appointed, right? We already said that if some of the community doesn't like him, we shouldn't appoint him, right? He should be liked by everybody. So then why did they appoint him? So he says the reason was because, politics, politics, right? So what was the politics? That there's like a politician there, mayor, governor, whatever, right? President, whatever. And he told the Jews to appoint this guy, he likes him. He took his side. So, we got into politics already, right? Politicians are getting involved. So he says, Lo tov asita limanot al pi asar. So he says, he tells them, not good what you did, right? Why did you make an appointment for a chazan because of some politician, some senator, whatever. Right? Who cares? Like, what does the senator have to do with my shul, right? I have my chazan there. What does that? One would have to do with the other? It should have nothing to do with the one. The politics should never get inside the religion, In the prayers, it's not a part of it. So that's what he said, this rabbi. So it says in our country, he says, that they were particular, right? Not to do that, right? Never to allow politicians, to get involved with the issues of the shul. Okay, so then he says, וכבר נעשית בימי אבי עזרי שנתמנה חזן והלך אחר אחד מתכוון לכבדו וגרם שההגמון שלח אחריו ולקח מצנפת שהיה לראשו, נתן עליו ואמר אלך החזנות וכעס מיד אף כנגד ההגמון ואמר אדוני אין דיני לקבל ממך עבודת בוראנו ולא קיבל עליו וסברני שכנס גם את היהודים. וגם בנידון זה, so let me just explain to you, right, what's going on here. He's bringing here a story, a very interesting story, that what happened was that there was a certain politician, who appointed somebody in the shul to be chazan, right? And they got into a strife about this. So what happened was that they came to this politician that told him, he said, like, buzz off, everybody, like, go jump in the lake. Who are you to appoint a chazan for us? What's it to you? Like, what does it have to do with you? So what happened was that this guy got angry, so they got into a whole strife, right? And then he fined them, some money, this politician, right? This governor, whatever. And they told him, they said, listen, you have nothing to do with the service of God. We're serving God. What does it have to do with you? You're a politician. What have to do with the other? ולא קיבל עליו, בספרנית, שנכנס קבל בנידון זה, חזן עליו לתקן, right? So he brings a story to teach you, right, that we're not supposed to follow the orders of politicians, to appoint the people in the shul. That's not the way it should be. You have nothing to do with us. You're a goy, we're Jewish, By the way, even if the politician is Jewish, it has nothing to do. So what? You're a Jewish senator, We have, one of those. I don't want to mention his name, right? You know who I'm talking about. He calls himself a Jew, but he doesn't behave like a Jew. But anyway, right? If he comes and tells you, listen, appoint this guy to be the Chazan, we tell him, listen, buzz off, like what? You do enough damage as it is in the Senate. Now you want to come and do damage at our shul? Enough. It's enough already what you did over there. So, okay, very good. Let's see Shulchan Aruch on that.
Yeah, the scum of the earth himself.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's see what's going on. Shulchan Aruch. So it says the Shulchan Aruch, right, according to this material we just read, and limanot shliach tzibur al pi asar. You should not appoint, right, a chazan according to some politician, senator, governor, mayor. Even if most of the community likes him, it should not be done by some politician. Okay, let's go on. Chavbet. Jumped on me here. So here he brings the Bit Yosef, right? Katab Tshuvat Rashba. It says in Tshuvat Rashba, Siman Tafnun, Sheshaluhu Ezo Adif. Oh, they asked him a question, right? The Rashba. Ezo Adif, Tzibur B'Sachar or Benedava? Oh, Shliach Tzibur B'Sachar or Benedava? A very good question, right? Is it better to have a Shliach Tzibur that works for free, right, as a volunteer, or benedava, or better to pay him, salary? What's better? Ve'ashiv. So he answers the Rashba, yoter rawi liot b'sachar. So it's better to pay him a salary, the chazan. לפי שבמקום שהוא לוקח תנאי, שכר ברור מן הקהל, אין פרץ ואין צווחה, שאין אחר שאינו הגון רשאי לפשוט רגלו, להתפלל. So, it says it's actually good to pay him. Why? Because this prevents other people from coming in, and trying to take his place. The fact that he's appointed by the community, he has a contract, under contract, right? He's got a salary, he's official. So it says in Rashba, since he's official, right, others won't try to, come in and, take his place. So what's the concern? The concern is, somebody who's not fitting will come in and try to take his place. We don't want that. Okay, so then he goes on. מי שאינו הגון לפיכך, הוכשרנו לתקן שבעים קדושים בהשמרות בראש השנה, יום הכיפורים, לא יהיה רשות בידם לעלות לדוכן להתפלל, אלא ברשות הקהל. So it says, therefore, it says, we made an enactment, right, in the community, whatever. What was the enactment? That if somebody wants to be chazan for the high holy days, he can only do this if he was appointed by the community, right? We don't want anybody just coming in and jamming in there. He has to be somebody who's very worthy. So we have to make sure that he's somebody like that. It says also the same thing with the shofar. Whoever's going to blow the shofar in Rosh Hashanah, right, so it says, according to the one who disagrees with this, מסוי לכל הקהלות כטוען שבכל מקום משוחרין לשליח ציבור, וגם השליח ציבור נזהר בתפילתו ותיקונו למען סחור הוא. Right, so another reason he says why this is better is because when you pay the shliach tzibur, he feels obligated, to do his job properly. He's getting a salary, so he's got to, prepare. He's got to be there on time. He's got to come every day. Not skip days. One day here, one day there. We don't want that, right? So if he feels that he's got a salary, he feels he's obligated. He's under contract, so he's got to do his job. Otherwise he's going to get fired. Something is going to happen to him. So we want that he should feel obligated, to do his job properly, and when he does it as a volunteer, he doesn't feel obligation. So he does whatever he wants, free man, free bird, whatever he wants, he does.
Are you alluding to someone that we hire in our synagogue?
No, no, I'm not talking about anybody in particular. But the rule is, better to have a chazan who's being paid. That's the proper thing to do,
We actually have a guy who's being paid, but he never shows up.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. It may be better that he doesn't show up. Okay, we'll talk about this some other time. But anyway,
But he's taking the people's money,
Well, yeah. That's a different discussion. I don't want to get into politics over there. We'll try to avoid politics as much as we can. Okay, so that's what the Rashba says. Right? Let's see the Shulchan Aruch on that. I guess we can stop. We have still more time. So it says Shulchan Aruch Chavbet Shliach Tzibur b'sachar adif tefeh mini davar. So it says better to have a paid Shliach Tzibur than to have somebody who's a volunteer. It says the Rama ve'en le'adam litpalel belo ratzon ha'kahal. Right, as we said already. He repeats this: that a person should not pray if the tzibur doesn't like him. People don't like him. You shouldn't pray. Look what he says, right? Incredible. If he does go up there, and like a mafia guy, right? He tries to force himself into the community, to be the chazan. We don't even answer him, like we ignore him, like he doesn't exist, Okay, see you, buddy. That's what we do. Okay, very good. Maybe we can do one more. So he brings another tshuva of the Rashba here. תשובה אחרת כתב לעניין שליח ציבור ששאלת אם נותן זה כזה אם שכיר הוא סוחרין אותו מקופת הקהל ואף על פי שהוא מוציא את הדל כעשיר מכל מקום אין יד העני משגת כיד העשיר. So he says the question is like this, right? That when you hire the chazan, where should the money come from, right? Which funds does he get paid from? So he says that since he's a hired worker, just like anybody else, so we should use the public, charity fund, right, for this purpose, to pay him his salary. So even though, right, this guy prays for everybody, right, whether the person is rich or poor, he's working for everybody in the same, category, in the same way. בכל מקום, אין יד העני משגת כיד העשיר, כל מה שהוא כתקנת תקנת הציבור ונעשית על ידי ממון, נותנים לו לפי ממון שאם אין אתה אומר כן אלא שפורעין זה כזה, לפי שאלו נהנים כאלו, אם כן אף אנו נאמר דמי שאינו בקיא יפרע, הכל שהרי הוא מוציא את שאינו בקיא, ואינו מוציא את הבקיא, right? So in other words, what he says is that what we do is, we just do it like according to the way it functions in the community. That everybody, pays a certain amount, contributes a certain amount, to pay the salary of the workers, the chazan. So he says, Rabbeinu Yerucham katab b'sefer mesharim. He writes in his book, Netiv Kaftet, Chelek Gimel, Teshuvat Rabbi. There's a tshuva of Rabbi al zeh regarding this. V'zeh leshono. This is what he says. Kishtei svarot. She's karta. He says the two opinions that you brought down, b'shelotecha, in your question, miota sachar nechelak lefi nefashot b'shavek. So the question is, again, the same question, right? Should the salary be paid by everybody giving the same amount, whether he's wealthy or not wealthy, right, or poor, or whatever, right? Everybody has to give a certain amount every year, let's say, right? Everybody gives, $100 a year, right? And that's where the salary comes from. Should it be like that? Everybody's equal? Or do we do it according to the wealth of the person? The richer person has to give more, and the one who's not so rich gives less, right? According to his financial worth. So he says the truth is that they're both correct, right? These two approaches, right? That either everybody gives equal amount, or we go according to the financial worth. They're both correct, he says. In other words, they both can work, depending on how they set it up. Even though there's like a sort of a contradiction there. In other words, either you do like this or like that, right? They're contradicting each other. Right? So he says, so he says, you know what? They should just decide, according to the proper way. In other words, make a calculation, how does it work out, properly in the community, make a calculation. And according to that, right, they're going to do it. They're going to make a decision. They're both legitimate approaches. So he says, so he says, why? Because, as we said, right, the prayers are really corresponding to the communal sacrifices. The sacrifices, so they don't come from free will offerings, these things. The obligation comes from the half shekel that they pay every year. Let's going to explain in Masechet Shkalim. So it says, כי שכר החזן שהתפילה נגמרת בשבילו, למי שאינו יודע להתפלל, so it says the chazan fulfills the obligation of people who don't know how to pray, או למי שהוא יודע, or somebody who does know, גם כן מהדברים שהן דווקא לציבור ולא ליחיד, כגון הקדושות והקדישים. There's also things that everybody needs there, the certain kaddish and kedusha, that's for everybody. Things like this. So that should be right portioned equally amongst the community. But it says, since the wages of the chazan in our times, it's not really for the obligation of the prayers. It's not only for that. Rather, right, what we need him for is, to come for the funerals and for the weddings, to be there, to sing for us, right? All kinds of things like this. Events, family events, right? Social events, blah, blah, blah. Umuadim and holidays, and things like this. So it's coming to serve the community. Right? This says, furthermore, ki betfilot mechuyavot lo dai lahem. So it says, when it comes to the obligatory prayers, lo dainu chazan. It's not enough from chazan. She'en kolo arev. They don't want somebody who doesn't have a good voice. Ela mosifin b'schar chazan. Rather, they rather have somebody who has a good voice. Kishemotzin oto yodea nagen benimot. and he knows how to sing properly, right, and with a nice voice. So it says, according to that, it should be really divided amongst everybody. על שני הדברים, כיצד משערים כמה היו נוטלים בשכר חזן, אילו היה די להם ממנו בתפילת המיוחדות, כגון תלמידים ומוספים ותופסי המעודות, כגון התחנונים בתעניות, בקינות בתשעה באב, בסליחות בליל המשמרות, בסדר יום הכיפורים, לילו ויומו, ואף על פי שאינן מקרי החיובים ואינם גם כן מהדברים. So what is he trying to say here, right? He's trying to say like this, that we have two types of categories in the prayers. We have prayers that are, that some people don't know how to pray. We pray for them. The Chazan does that. That's one category. There's also other things which are just, for everybody. So there's two different kinds of types of obligations going on there. Two different types of jobs that he has to do, the Chazan. ואינם גם כן מהדברים שיש להם גבול ידוע. And these things are not really so well defined, so it's hard to really make a precise plan, like how much everybody should pay. Right? So he says, ידוע לכם בעיניי, אצל התפילה מיוחדת בערך נדבות, הם התלמידים המוספים, שהיו באות הכל מתרומת הלשכה, שהייתה ממחצית השקל, ואחר כך רואים כמה הם מוציאים בשכר זה, החזן שרוצים לברור להם, להתעסק בשני העניינים בחובת הדת, במנהג הציבור, ממה שביארתי ומחלקין אותו על הקהל ממי שהוא בר מצווה. So he says, what we do is, everybody who's bar mitzvah, at least 13 years old, he should also pay a portion of that salary that they pay him, right? Everybody's got to pay something. And that's whatever they add to that, on that minimal amount, right? The minimal mischar chazan to pay the chazan. So then we should already do according to wealth, financial worth. כמו שאר עולי הקהל, כי התפארת והנדיבות, כגון אלו הדברים שאינם הכרחים, הם הולכים אחר הממון, ואין ספק אצלי, כי שכר החזן הפשוט שאינו צריך לבטל מלאכתו, אלא בית התפילה, חובה ואין תפילת החובה, ואינו מלווה מת ולא מספידו, ולא להיות לחופת חתן, ולא באבלות, אבל אינו משכר החזן שהוא מספיק לכל אלה, חלק קטן, וזהו שהכרעתי סברתי בשתי פנים אלו, והשם יודע האמת, יראינו מתורתנו בדרכנו בדרך האמת כלשונו. Okay, so this is a nice, beautiful essay he writes here, this rabbi, right? One of the Gaonim, Rav Hai Gaon. So his conclusion is like this, that they should do, according to the proper, they got some good brain power, work it out in a way that works for everybody. Some of it is going to be paid like a minimal amount. Everybody pays a minimal amount. And then above that, right, you pay according to your financial worth and so forth and so on, right? So depending on what they need and how it's structured, you make it up and you do it the way it's supposed to be done. That's basically the idea. Okay, good. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch and we're done. He also says something interesting, by the way. Another good point he makes over there is that there's two types of chazan. There's a chazan who just does the prayers, the basic prayers, shachrit, right, mincha, arvit, whatever, right. So he's basically doing a short time. It's 2 hours a day maximum, the whole thing, hour and a half a day. There's a difference between this kind of chazan and a chazan who does also events, weddings, funerals, things like this, right. So accordingly, he has to be paid more, right? That's what he's trying to say, right? According to what he does, right? Nowadays, by the way, these chazanim, what they do, right? They have the salary, and then they take also into their pocket for the events, so they get paid twice. You know what I'm talking about? So yeah, I won't go too long into that story, but so it says, Sachar shliach tzibur porim mikupat hakal. Says the Shulchan Aruch that the wages of the shliach tzibur, where does it come from? From the communal funds, right? The charity funds. That's where it comes from. And even though shliach tzibur is working for everybody, whether he's rich or poor. But anyway, right, the poor doesn't have the same ability as the rich guy, you know? So what does that mean? The rich guy should pay more according to his financial worth, right? That's a proper approach. So says the Rama, some say shegovin chatzi lefi mamon v'chatzi lefi nefashot, right? So he brings this, right, the other opinion, which is that what we should do is like this, you know, divide it up into 50-50. Right? 50% gets paid like everybody pays the same amount, you know, head tax for everybody, right? Same amount, $100 a month, a year, right? Let's say everybody pays that. Okay, minimal. And the other 50% is paid by financial worth, you know? So they do it like 50-50. This way they make like a compromise between these two different approaches, right? That's pretty much what we said in the Bet Yosef. So the Rama brings that down from Maram Padwa. Okay, very good. So I guess we'll stop there. Chazak Baruch, thanks for being with us tonight. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. Don't forget to count the Omer. Tonight is 13, Bezat Hashem. But, you know, somebody, by the way, asked us, one of our friends, you know, are ladies supposed to count the Omer or not, you know? So according to the truth is, according to Sephardi custom, the ladies don't count with the bracha, with the blessing. They count without a blessing. The Ashkenazim, some of the ladies count with a blessing. That's their custom, you know? But according to Kabbalah, the women are not supposed to count at all, you know, even without a blessing. So if you want to be a Kabbalist, don't count, you know, if you're a woman, right? If you're a man, right, stay a man, right? Don't get into these gender issues like they have today. If you're a man, stay that way. Chazak Baruch, Laila Tov.
Thank you.
All the best.